Strangely enough, the passing of my father actually sent me in the wrong direction.
Damn, okay.
I was 7 years old, and when he died, I cosmically felt like it was my fault. I was running and running and running, but no matter how many people I helped, and no matter how busy I got, no matter how great a practice I had, I still couldn't solve the fact that he died. Being a doctor, I thought was gonna be purposeful, but it isn't.
Right.
How am I gonna build a purposeful life? I didn't know what to add in, so I did something called the art of subtraction. I said, well, what are all the things I don't like? We often put money first, but we should really put purpose and identity first and then build a financial framework around it.
Ooh, that's good. I wanted to help millions of people get out of debt. That was one of my biggest goals. But then I was like, dang, how do I measure that? I can't really measure that. But what I can do is, can I just focus on helping one person get out of it?
Yeah. What if we started looking at what I call little p purpose? This means finding things that light us up and just doing them. This is really abundant.
Welcome back to the table, family. It's your boy, Anthony ONeal. And here we're having a real authentic conversation about life, about wealth, about everything in between. And today is no exception. Joining us in the studio at the table for the very first time, but not the last time, is my good friend, Dr. Jordan, AKA Doc G, who we call. He is an accomplished medical doctor. We're going to talk a little bit about that. An author and founder of the award-winning Earn and Invest podcast that I've had the opportunity to be on. And I was like, man, he brings me on his podcast. I never had you on mine. I said, bro, you got to come to DC. And so listen, what makes Doc G truly unique is his profound perspective as a hospice doctor who is deeply passionate about purpose and financial freedom. His journey was significantly shaped by the unexpected loss of his father at a very young age, which sparked a passion for medicine and gave him a powerful understanding of life, purpose, and legacy. Today, we are going to dive into his groundbreaking new book, The Purpose Code. Oh, I'm loving it. How to unlock meaning, maximize happiness, and leave a lasting legacy. I am so confident that today's conversation will inspire you to discover or even redefine a little bit your purpose, helping you create long-lasting impact, not just in your life, but also in generations to come and also in your wealth building. But before we get to my brother here, Doc G, I want to remind you, man, listen, we are on the journey to 1 million subscribers. We didn't hit it this year. Let's be real. And I know why we didn't hit it, but we're going to hit it by the end of Q1 in 2025. And so I want to ask you specifically to hit that subscribe button, join this family, whether you're on YouTube, listening and watching to this, hit that subscribe button and join our E3 community. If you're listening to this on the podcast, oh my gosh, we're at about 150,000 downloads per episode. Hit that subscribe button too, so we can make sure that you're always getting it. Don't forget, once we hit 1 million subscribers, we're giving away a used quality, pre-owned, low miles, mid-mile car to one of our community members just for hitting 1 million subscribers. And so we're going to be doing that. As a matter of fact, y'all don't forget, hit that subscribe button. And don't forget that my brand new book, Take Your Seat at the Table, comes out January 14th. I would love for y'all to check it out. As a matter of fact, check out this quick commercial and we'll get to my big bro, Doc G. The noise, it's distracting. It's pulling me away from my purpose. And I need to make a change. Enough is enough. The hardest part is taking the first step. But on the other side of fear is freedom. It's time to take your seat at not just the table, but the head of the table. You see, abundance, wellness, and freedom are within reach. Embrace your purpose. It's your table. It's your life. It's your time. Does the world ever get so loud that it's hard to even think? Your purpose is calling, but you can't seem to hear it through all the noise until right now. It's time to take your seat at the table. What's meant for you will never miss you. But first, it's time to step into your power, own your purpose, and reach your God-given potential.
We'll get right back here to the show, but real quick, you all know here at the table, we are all about helping you build financial freedom and build the wealth that you desire without racking up any debt. And here's the truth, that a lot of you all are on this journey of becoming a homeowner and building the life that you desire, but we gotta make sure that your credit profile is not jacked up in the midst of this process. That's why I want to introduce you to my new friends at Kickoff. It's an easy tool that helps you build credit with zero hidden fees and no surprises. Now, before you think I have gone crazy, listen here. Kickoff can help you build credit, watch this, without the temptation to overspend. Instead, it's a smart way to help build the kind of credit profile that could save you money on big things like a home or car insurance, because a clean credit profile can mean better interest rates. If you've been looking for a simple, practical way to improve your financial profile and build that credit foundation, give Kickoff a try. It's a straightforward tool that makes a real progress possible. Watch this. I'm saying this again. That makes real progress possible without getting you into any more debt. So head over to anthonyoneal.com/kickoff. That is KIKOFF. And let's get you one step closer to that financial freedom. Again, that is anthonyoneal.com/kickoff, KIKOFF. And let's get you there. Remember, your dream home, your financial freedom is right around the corner. You're dialing into today's show. So get all the information that you need and check out my friends at Kickoff. And together, we're going to help change your future.
Doc G, welcome to the table, man.
Thank you for inviting me in. I've been waiting to have a seat at this table.
Hey, man, listen, you've deserved it for so long. You've always had me on your podcast, I think a couple of times. And I think I tried to get you on one time, and I think my schedule conflicted years ago. But I'm just happy that I'm actually able to have you at the table now, because I've learned so much about you. And so you have a brand new book coming out called The Purpose Code: How to Unlock Meaning, Maximize Happiness, and Leave a Lasting Legacy. And sitting here before we were recording, man, you said something to me that was really profound, that I really want my audience to get to know you on a personal level. Just yesterday at the time of recording, you did a eulogy for your father, who unfortunately passed away years ago. I think you said back in 1982.
Well, my father died in 1982, but my father-in-law, we eulogized him yesterday, died a few days ago.
A few days ago, okay. All right, cool. So now, thanks for the clarity. So when your father passed in 1982, with this being a money show, I was like, wow, like, this is interesting. You became a hospice doctor, but then you also said something that was so profound that I think people should know. How did the passing of your father impact your life and define a sense of purpose for you moving forward?
Strangely enough, the passing of my father actually sent me in the wrong direction.
Damn, okay.
I was 7 years old, and when he died, I cosmically felt like it was my fault, right? You're 7-year-old, the lens you look at the world is kind of selfish.
Yeah.
And so he was a cancer doctor,
Okay.
and I somehow in my brain cosmically figured I could solve all of life problems if I just became a doctor like him.
Wow.
And that actually became my sole sense of purpose and identity. Wow. And I will say it served me for many years. There was a lot of joy there. I wasn't worried about money. I wasn't worried about prestige. I just had this drive to do this thing, but something happened.
Yeah.
When I actually became a doctor, I found it wasn't filling me up.
Wow.
And what I realized is I had this big, audacious sense of purpose from my dad's death. Like, if I could just solve this cosmic wrong that happened to me, it would fix everything.
Yeah.
And I realized that actually what I found was burnout, because I could never get there.
Wow.
It was such a big version of purpose. I was running, but no matter how many people I helped, and no matter how busy I got, no matter how great a practice I had, I still couldn't solve the fact that he died.
And how many of us listening to this and watching this has honestly felt like that before? Like losing a parent or a loved one at a young age. I'm grateful enough that I haven't lost my parents yet. But I have friends who did, and they lived with, like, it was my fault. I should have. Yeah. And they lived with that for years. You became a hospice doctor later, though. So you went into that particular field. When did you get into the hospice particular field of your life?
So I did general internal medicine for a lot of years, and I was burning out trying to figure out, well, how am I going to leave this job?
Okay.
And so I went to my financial advisor and my accountant, and they gave me all sorts of crazy numbers. Like, if you really want to leave this job and not work anymore, you're going to need $10 million. Well, I had nothing near $10 million. But I did decide to start doing what I call medical side hustles. I'm like, okay, I have a practice here, but there are people who need doctors who will pay you a stipend to come in, do some extra work. And so hospices often need medical directors. And I had been approached by a hospice nurse because I took care of old people, so a lot of people die.
Okay.
And the hospice nurses had seen me taking care of these people who were dying and said, wow, you're kind of good at this. Maybe you should come be one of our medical directors. And so I started as a side hustle.
Wow.
But here's what happened. As I got my finances in order, and I started looking at my life and saying, well, being a doctor I thought was going to be purposeful, but it isn't.
Right.
How am I going to build a purposeful life? I didn't know what to add in, so I did something called the art of subtraction. I said, well, what are all the things I don't like? And I looked at my job and started subtracting things out, and I didn't like owning my own practice, so I got rid of it. I sold it. Didn't like working nights and weekends. I was working in a nursing home, but that was really, really stressful. When I started subtracting everything out, you know what I found? I would do hospice even if someone wasn't paying me for it. And I'm like, that's an anchor of purpose. I always tell people, you don't find purpose, you build or create it. But you need these anchors, these things that are important to you. And so I used the art of subtraction to find this really important anchor in my life. And then I had to build a life of purpose around it, which means I started to have to engage in hospice activities. I had to get to know these hospice companies. I had to get known for my ability to do this kind of work. And so I transitioned out of general medicine. And eventually, as I got my finances in order, because, right, we talk finances, but we talk purpose as if they're two different things, but they're very similar.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
And so your money is a tool. So as I got my finances in order, I not only could practice hospice, and even though I wasn't making as much money doing that,
Right.
I still had the financial background to do that, but I got to do it less and less. So at some point I was working 10, 15 hours a week, and that opened up the rest of my time to start really pursuing those things that did feel purposeful and exciting, because I'd spent so much time with that big audacious plan of fixing my father's death. Once I was able to let that go, find something in medicine I loved, but that opened up all sorts of time to start looking at, well, what does fill me up? What excites me? And not because I was looking for some huge goal, not I wanted to make $1 million, or not that I wanted to win a Nobel Prize, but more like, what are the day-to-day activities that I can do that light me up, where I bring my best gifts to the world? And that's when I started writing and public speaking and podcasting, all these things that led me to people like you.
Yeah.
Because what I always tell people is, when you do things that light you up, that's purpose. Purpose isn't a big goal. It's not having the 8-figure business. What purpose is, you do things that light you up, but then they connect you to other people. So I'm sitting here in Alexandria having this conversation with you because I had the courage to step away from what wasn't purposeful and start doing things that light me up. And because people like you see me lit up, excited, ready to have these great conversations, you're like, I want to talk to that guy. And it creates connections and community, because that's where I think happiness really lies. I could talk about purpose a lot, and I can tell you all sorts of facts and figures about how purpose leads to happiness, longevity, health, all sorts of great things. But I think it only really does it because it's a conduit to people. To me and you sitting here having this conversation, and then people listening to it and watching it. And feeling part of our community.
You know, we're going into 2025, right? And then people are watching this show saying, man, I keep hearing him talking about purpose. And your book is called The Purpose Code. I just did a webinar called Start 2025 Strong. And really how to go into 2025, teaching people how to have a clear vision. What we didn't talk about was purpose. What do you think people are getting wrong with purpose? As we're going into 2025, what would you say to that person listening to today's show that is inside of your book? And y'all, we're going to link his book inside of today's show notes. I need y'all to get it. You know, you're going to get my book, and I need you to get his book as well. You help us both hit New York Times bestseller. But what are some things that you think we're getting wrong with purpose that we should shift specifically for 2025 so we can have a better, purposeful, meaningful, impactful, wealth building, debt eliminating year?
So let me tell you how I figured this out.
Okay.
I've been talking forever about being a hospice doctor and what the dying can teach us about money and life.
Okay.
And one of my big messages is, we often put money first, but we should really put purpose and identity first, and then build a financial framework around it.
Ooh, that's good.
Now, I've been going out and giving talks about this forever, and something strange kept happening.
Okay.
people would come up to me after my talks, right? Trying to be uplifting, trying to
Yeah.
help people.
Yeah.
And they'd be angry.
Yeah.
And the first time this happened, I'm like, it's a one-off, no big deal. Happened over and over again. And here's what they'd say. They'd be like, Doc, you keep on telling me I should find my purpose, and that's how I'm gonna live a good life, build my financial framework around it, but I have no idea what my purpose is. I can't find my purpose. And in fact, I'm getting really anxious. Will people like you please stop telling me to find my purpose? And so this sent me down the rabbit hole. I'm like, I gotta figure this out. I'm a doctor, right? I'm a scientist. So I gotta figure this out. I gotta study it. So I went back and I looked at the literature and combed through it. And here's the thing. Having a sense of purpose in life has been shown over and over again, multiple studies, to provide health, longevity, and happiness. So people who have a sense of purpose in life have all those things. On the other hand, I found other studies that show that up to 91% of people at some point in their life have what's called purpose anxiety. This idea that purpose actually makes them frustrated and depressed. And so I was left with this question, how can it be both? How can it be like the most important thing and also the most anxiety ridden? And what I realized is that purpose isn't one thing, it's probably two things. And one of those is associated with anxiety. And the other one is associated with that health, happiness, and longevity. And so I call them big P purpose and little p purpose. A big P purpose, the one that causes anxiety, is very goal-oriented. And the problem with being really goal-oriented is we tend to think in America, like if you can think it, you can build it. So it tends to be really big. I want to be president. I want to cure cancer. I want to do all these kind of things.
Yeah. Yeah.
The problem is a lot of us don't have agency to do that. We're not the right person at the right time, saying the right things with the right genetics and the right luck.
Yep.
And so for instance, if you want to be president, that's great, but only one person can be president. Everyone else is going to fail at least each 4-year cycle. And that's going to leave us feeling bad.
Yes, sir.
On the other hand, what if we started looking at what I call little p purpose? This means finding things that light us up and just doing them. This is really abundant, right? So big P purpose is kind of scarcity mindset oriented. It's winner takes all. Little p purpose, really, really abundant. Just what can I find that I enjoy? And if I stop enjoying it, I start doing something else. And so it's like, instead of being all or nothing, it's all or all. You can't fail.
Yeah.
And so that's the difference, is I think we get this purpose wrong, and I think it makes us upset and anxious. Now, don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
I think goals are great. And when you're looking at 2025, you want to have goals. In fact, I'm okay with big goals.
Yeah. Yeah.
But you have to be a little bit more goal agnostic. In other words,
Yeah.
the goal can't be the whole reason, or you're probably doing it wrong. Like the goal almost has to be a happy side effect of doing things that light you up, because you want to enjoy the process, because you're going to spend 95% of your time in the process and only 5% succeeding.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. You know what? I love how you said that, because all the times when I'm sitting across from my guests, I try to see, okay, how can I relate what they're teaching to my personal life? And one of my biggest goals was I wanted to help millions of people get out of debt. That was one of my biggest goals. But then I was like, dang, how do I measure that? I can't really measure that. But what I can do is, can I just focus on helping one person get out of it?
Yeah.
And every single time we record a show, my team and I want to be able to teach something that helps one person get out of debt. How can I measure that? We see it all the time in the comments. I get it all the time in my DMs. And man, when I started realizing that my purpose, my little p purpose, man, the little p purpose is going to get me eventually to the big goal.
Yes.
And that's what I started realizing. If I want to go all the way back, I'm super spiritual. And I remember growing up, I said, man, I want to be the best youth pastor in the world. That's what I said. I want to be the best. I want everybody to know my name. And then I heard the Spirit heard God tell me, he said, man, listen, focus on one kid in your community. Focus on one school inside of your community. Focus on just Jacksonville, Florida at that time. Well, actually, at that time, it was Fayetteville, North Carolina. Focus on Fayetteville, North Carolina. And then what ended up happening is, going back to what you're saying, this is why this book is dope. This is why y'all got to get this book, because he's teaching good. When I focused on Fayetteville, which was a small city, Doc, small city. I think we only had about 150,000 people there in the city. I wasn't worried about the United States knowing my name. I was like, okay, I just want Fayetteville to be impacted by the ministry that my church is doing. Man, next thing I knew, someone in Jacksonville, Florida, Bishop McKissick, heard what I was doing, which is Jacksonville, Florida. Now you're in millions of people. Go ahead. I see you want to say something.
Yeah. Well, here's the thing. When you do things that light you up,
Yes, sir.
like a moth to a flame,
Yeah.
it attracts people. People want to collaborate with you, people who believe in the same things you believe in. And that's where that connection and community, but that's also where the impact and legacy comes from. So a lot of people think, I'm gonna have impact and legacy, I'm gonna get that 1 million subscribers.
Yeah.
Or I'm gonna cure cancer, or I'm gonna do this big thing. But the problem is, because it's so difficult, a lot of times they burn out and they stop trying.
Ooh.
But what if
Ooh.
you, and I know this is you,
Yeah.
what if you're like, I love pastoring.
Yeah.
I love teaching financial literacy.
Yeah.
Every day I come and I'm lit up by it.
Yeah.
You will impact more people. Your legacy will last. And it will long last after you're gone.
Yeah.
And this is the piece people don't understand. Quick story about my maternal grandfather.
Yes, sir.
He loved math.
Okay. Okay.
Because of it, he became a CPA. He just loved math. It wasn't even helping people, he just loved math. Back in the 1950s, my mom would sit on his lap and he'd have these big spreadsheets, right? They didn't have computers back then, so he'd be writing in the numbers into the little boxes. And she saw him lit up, so she wanted to be like him. So she became an accountant. And when I was a little kid, right around when my father died, I actually had a learning disability.
Did you?
I did. I couldn't read. So while everyone else was reading, I was coloring in a coloring book. But you know why I didn't think I was lost?
Why?
Because I had taken on that same identity, seeing my mom do something she loved, math. And so I started doing math.
Wow.
And so I was excellent at math. Fast forward, I used this love of math to become a doctor, and I was treating a patient, and I saw some lab values, and I realized he had a rare disease because I saw the mathematical connection between those two lab values. And we were able to change something, and he stopped coming to the hospital, stopped getting dehydrated, pretty much saved his life. He was a pastor at a local church, and he took in runaways. And he fed them, got them social services. So think about this. My maternal grandfather, I never met him. He died in the 1960s. I was born in the 1970s.
Okay. Okay.
His love of math is still alive today in that pastor who's helping a runaway kid. Because like a pebble dropped in the ocean, it displaced a little water that became a wave. And that wave joined other waves at times that become really, really big. And at other times it became small, and dissipated, but eventually came up on sandy shores 50, 60 years later, hundreds of miles away. But it all started with doing something that lit him up. Something you and I think, try to do every day.
You know, Doc, you teaching good, man. Because I'm like, I love the big P, little P. There's nothing wrong with the big P. It's just that you gotta, that can't be your focus. It has to be the little P, in my personal opinion, because I think I am getting to my big P, right? Because I focus on the little P. Let's just look at my journey real quick, and then I want to ask you another question that I think a lot of people, I want to associate anxiety with purpose and anxiety. You talk a little bit about it in your book. I'm going to get a little more clarity on that because I think a lot of people are dealing with that. But I focus on Fayetteville. Fayetteville led me to Jacksonville, Florida, a bigger city, a bigger state, a bigger organization, a bigger church. I went from 2,000 people at this church to 20,000 people, from 120 youth to about 5,000 youth. I get to Jacksonville, I focus solely on Jacksonville, Florida. I'm partnering with the Jaguars, I'm partnering with the schools, the superintendent. I'm trying to make sure that that ministry is impacting that city. What happens after that? Ramsey Solutions finds out what I'm doing, and they're like, yo, wait, we see this. Now we want to bring you to this national level, and the same message that I started off something small. So then now I go from there. I worked there for 7, 8 years. Now I leave on my own, and now we're hitting on 1 million subscribers. Our total community tribe throughout all of our platforms is close to 2 million people. And I'm like, but I started off with the little P.
Yeah, and that's why you didn't burn out. That's why you're still at it.
But let's talk about this. I didn't burn out, but boy, I did have some anxiety. I ain't gonna lie to you, Doc. Boy, I had some anxiety. And you talk about purpose anxiety inside your book. Break that down for us. What does that look like?
It's all about agency.
Okay.
We want control.
Yes.
It makes us anxious when we feel like we can't control what happens to us.
Yeah.
Here's the problem with purpose.
Yeah.
Most people walk around thinking it's this huge thing.
Yeah.
It's once in a lifetime.
Yeah.
You either find it and everything is great,
So good.
or you miss it and you're lost. And this sets us up to fail. So what do? We don't know what our purpose is.
Yeah.
We're supposed to find it. We don't know how to find it.
Right.
So we go looking. And where do we go looking? Social media.
Yes.
And marketing.
Yes.
And society. And guess what? They have a version of Big P purpose they want to sell you, and there's a reason they want to sell you it.
Yeah.
They want you to have six-pack abs, or at least that's what they say. They want you to travel the world. They want you to have a 7-figure business.
Yes.
They want you to wear the finest clothes, but you know why? They don't care about you.
Facts.
They want you to buy the thing.
Facts.
They want you to follow them.
Yeah.
And so that's the problem. You can be an influencer and be ethical and come with your little P and show people who you are.
Yes.
But the world is full of people trying to sell you a version of purpose that serves them and not you.
Facts.
And of course, we fall for it hook, line, and sinker. And we say, I want those six-pack abs. I want that 7-figure business.
Yeah.
And if we're not the right person at the right time, saying the right things, if we don't have the genetics to have six-pack abs, nor the money to buy the really healthy food, nor the gym membership, nor the trainer, if we don't have those things, we feel lost.
That is true.
Like there's this big thing we're missing.
Yeah.
And it's being kept from us.
Yeah. You know, if I'm being honest and vulnerable, I feel like I used to feel like that sometimes because I was single.
Yeah.
I felt like a huge part of my purpose was to be a husband and a father. And that's all that we see on social media is the people having these extravagant proposals and big old weddings and relationship goals. And I'm like, man, social media is telling me that I'm not living within my purpose.
And let me
because
tell
I'm
you
not
something
married.
controversial.
Yeah.
I say this in the book. I don't think people are your purpose. It's
Ooh.
very controversial.
Ooh.
I think people are important. I think we live for connections. Remember I said happiness, interpersonal connections, community.
Yeah.
But here's why people aren't your purpose. And let's think about kids too. I like to put it in terms of having kids.
Okay.
If you teach your kids that they are your purpose, what are you modeling for them?
Ooh.
You're modeling for them that when they get older, their kids should be their purpose. What if they can't have kids? What if they never get married? What if the world has changed and we decide that many people don't want to have kids? What we want to do is model for them behavior where we're being lit up.
Okay.
We want to do our little P purpose. We want to do stuff that lights us up because then we're giving our kids, but not only our kids, our spouses, our friends, our community,
Yes, sir.
we're giving them permission to do the same.
Yes, sir.
So we want to model that behavior. I call it generational growth. We all know what generational trauma is, right?
Yes,
when
sir.
we're handed down things that don't serve us.
Right.
I want to start handing down things that serve the next generation.
So good.
My father-in-law's eulogy, what did we all talk about? We talked about what we learned from him.
Yeah.
His excitement about politics, his studying things he loved. He gave permission to his kids
Yeah.
to be introspective, to study, to learn.
Yeah.
That's what we want to do. We don't want to teach them that the only reason we live is for them. And I'll tell you, I have 2 kids and I love them to death. And I do live on some level for them.
Yeah.
But it's really important that they see me doing stuff I love because I want them to grow up and do stuff they love.
Yeah, man. To me, that's legacy.
Yeah.
To me, that's I'm leaving you all with freedom and choices.
That's the piece of you that lasts long after you die. My maternal grandfather, no one says his name anymore, Morris Adler.
Yeah.
Maybe no one's spoken his name this year. He's in no history books.
Yeah.
But his actions
Yeah.
are still impactful 60 years later because of his love of math. What if you could do that? What if you loved something, pursued it, and changed the world around you, and 60 years after you died,
Yeah.
people were still benefiting from who you were? Again, your name might not be in the history books, no one might say it, but your legacy, your impact, it's alive.
When it comes to purpose and money, we said earlier in the show that some people are chasing money rather than purpose. And we even said too that sometimes they think that purpose and money are not together, which I think that it is together. I think if you're really going to make the most money you can make, it has to be attached to purpose. What would you say, what is the role money plays inside of your purpose and purpose plays inside of your money? Because we have a lot of people watching this show right now, especially going to 2025. They're not feeling accomplished financially.
Yeah.
We see that nearly 78-80% of people are living paycheck to paycheck. Yeah. You have the Earn and Invest podcast. People are struggling to invest. They don't like their jobs. the jobs are like, this is not aligned with what I want to do in life.
Yeah, yeah.
What would you say to those individuals? How do we bring the two together, merge the two together, so we can have a fulfilling life, but then also have a financial free life? Because I don't know if y'all heard it earlier, but he said, hey, I sat down with my financial advisor and she told me I wasn't ready yet, but I listened and did some things to become ready. How did you do that, man?
So let me give you a long answer to that.
Okay.
Let's talk about winning the game.
Yes, sir.
How do we win the game? Here's what I believe.
Okay.
You're born one day,
Yeah.
you die another.
Yeah.
Certain amount of time there.
Yeah.
We don't know how much. And I'm going to say it's set. Yes, you can exercise and not smoke and wear your seatbelt, do all sorts of great things. But I'm going to say that's a set amount of time. Here's the problem with time. Can't buy it, can't sell it, can't trade it. In fact, you can control one thing. The activities you're involved in as time passes. That's it. That's all we got. So what's winning the game? Winning the game is taking these time slots. Let's call them hours, days, weeks, years, whatever you want to call them. Got these time slots. Winning the game is filling those time slots with as much purposeful, joyful things you can and getting rid of as many things that you loathe as you can. And so what we want to do from when we're, young men and women until the day we die is we want to be looking at that calculator every week or month and slowly improving that calculus. More things we love that are purposeful, less things we loathe. Here's the thing about money. People think money is the only way to get there. It's the only tool. What I like to remind people is money is one of several tools. Yeah. We have our communities, we have our youth, we have our energy, we have our passions, we have our skills. Those are all tools.
Yeah.
And we can use those to pull on some levers.
Yeah.
What are our levers? I mentioned one already, the art of subtraction. You can get rid of things you loathe in your life. Yeah. Subtract them out.
Yeah.
But let's say you can't subtract them. Let's say you're at your job and you need that job, you need money, and I can't stop cutting things from work because I need that money. There's the joy of addition.
Yeah.
You can start adding in joyful, purposeful things into your life. So let's say you were working a job and you're like, I'm into youth pastoring, but I'm working 40, 50 hours a week. I don't have time for youth pastoring. Here's the thing. If you're 22, 23, I'm 51. You've got your youth and energy. Those are both tools I don't have.
Facts.
You don't have a mortgage.
Facts.
You might not be married. You might not have kids.
Facts.
So you can, maybe you're working 50 hours a week, but then on Sunday, you can volunteer to youth pastor for a few hours. Little P purpose, something you love. So what happens? After 6 months, this is lighting you up. You're attracting people to it. You love it. They love you because you love it. Someone offers you a job. Maybe they say, you know what? I'm going to give you this job because you're youth pastoring and we need people like you in our community. And you say, but I can't afford it. That only pays a fourth of what I'm getting in my job. Maybe they say, you know what? How about 2 nights a week? 2 nights a week, we'll pay you an hourly salary. You come youth pastor. This is what you were meant to do. Before you know it, you're like, I hate that job. But now I'm making a little money youth pastor. What if I can go down to 4 days a week instead of 5? And then maybe I can go to that organization and say, you know what, I'm youth pastoring at night, but now I got an extra day. What if I do a little more youth pastoring? So all of a sudden, we took someone who thought they were powerless, thought they had no tools. I have no money, I have no tools. We started using some levers, the joy of addition, started using some levers, the art of subtraction, and we started building margin in their life.
Yes, sir.
And if you start that at 22,
wow,
by the time you're 82,
yeah,
your schedule is going to look like full of things you love.
Yes.
That you put there.
Yeah.
Like I'm 51. I lived the beginning of my professional career where someone else was putting stuff on my calendar all day.
Ooh, talk about it.
Right?
Talk about it.
My clinic was filling up because my office manager was putting people in. The hospital was calling me I needed to do rounds. All sorts of things. People putting things on my schedule, and I got burnt out and exhausted. You know why? I had no control over that schedule. But by building a financial framework, figuring out what purpose looked like in my life, I, over time, was able to subtract things out I didn't like, add things out I loved, and now I look at my calendar at 51. When I open up my calendar, everything I put there, even if I don't like it, right? Sometimes I do my own podcast. Sometimes I edit my own podcast. And I always love editing my podcast, but you know what?
Yeah.
I put it there.
Yeah.
And if I decide I don't want to do it, don't want to put out an episode next week,
right?
You know what?
I don't have to.
I have complete control over it.
Yeah.
That's winning the game.
Yes, sir.
Got to figure out money to win the game.
Yeah.
Let's turn it around. Remember, like I was talking about, let's say you start youth pastoring, it's bringing you some money. when you do things you love that are purposeful, it attracts money to you. But it's different. Like Ken Honda says, it's happy money, right? It's money you make doing something you love. It's happy money. And you know what you got to do then? You take that money and you spend it on things you love. You buy products you love. You support people you love. You give to donations you love.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
I'm convinced if you build more Little P purpose in your life, it'll light you up and it will lead to opportunities and it will lead to money. And if it doesn't, here's another thing I see happen all the time. You're at your job and your job's okay, and you start pursuing Little P purpose. I've seen this, I have a friend who's very interested in women's place in the workspace. She started writing about it and talking about it, and she didn't love her job. So she went to her job and said, you know what? I think we need more programming about women's space in the workplace. And as you know, that's been a popular thing over the last decade or two. And so she started volunteering because it was the joy of addition. She was adding in something purposeful. But that job said, you know what? You're doing a really good job at this. Why don't we change what you do? And you're only going to be 70% this job, which she didn't love. And now 30% of your time is going to be programming for the company nationwide. That's how pursuing purpose leads to financial well-being, opportunities, connections, and collaborations. But more importantly, that's how you win the game.
One thing I love about you that you said that I think a lot of people need to hear, specifically, I would say that younger individual. I don't really think people in our generation are doing this, but I love how you laid it out. I find my purpose. I find what brings me happiness. I didn't just quit a thing that I hated.
No. Can't do that. Can't do that.
You know, I didn't just say
reality.
Yeah, exactly. I didn't say goodbye and I'm gonna go do this. It was what is the strategic way, the systematic way to what you said. I will have a boring day and I have a day I'm going to pass. I have all that time. So how do I, in my terms, in my words, steward that time wisely to get to the things that I love to do, which is my purpose, right? Without destroying my life. And I think what happens with a lot of people is they wake up one day and they say, I hate my job. And then they quit that job.
They don't know where to go.
And don't know where to go. Or watch this, and correct me if I'm wrong if you disagree with this. They'll go towards their purpose, but their purpose then turns into a nightmare because they weren't prepared for to be at their purpose. So if we're talking about a youth pastor position, for an example, is if I quit my job to go be a full-time youth pastor and that church can't pay me, so I had to volunteer.
So what you've done is you've taken a job you didn't like and took something you loved and turned it into a job you didn't like. And the reason why is it became goal-oriented purpose. You love youth pastoring, but when you start youth pastoring because you got to pay the bills.
Come on.
And if you don't succeed, you're going to feel that lack of agency and you're going to feel lost again.
Come on.
Goal agnostic. You do youth pastoring because you love it.
Yes.
You slowly subtract out what you don't like about your other job without getting rid of it.
Yes.
And when it's ready to support you,
it'll support you.
It'll support you. And if it never supports you, you're still doing better. Because you're still doing more of what you love. You're still having a bigger impact because when you become a youth pastor, and let's say you can only ever afford to do it on weekends, you're still touching lives. You're still having impact. You're still having service, right? Because I think when we do things that light us up, it almost always leads to service. Because those are your gifts.
Yeah.
We're meant to give our gifts to other people to help them.
Yes. Man, you're helping us out a lot, man. And I am really excited, y'all, about G's new book, The Purpose Code, How to Unlock Meaning, How to Maximize Happiness, and How to Leave a Lasting Legacy. This is a book that I think everyone needs to get. We're going to put a copy of it inside of the show notes to where you can get a copy of it, because I really do believe that if you can get your purpose down packed, not only, and here's why I say it. Some people would disagree with this statement, but I don't care. It's my show. Because I'm living in my purpose. I think a lot of people get confused that, well, I can make more money doing this. But for me, I can make more money when I'm in my happiness. And watch this. I'm not saying that I can make 100 million. I'm saying is I'd rather have more peace, joy, and finances than to have just more finances but no peace and no joy. And to me, when you add peace and joy with money, that is more money than just having money by itself, but then no peace and joy. And I think that's why understanding your purpose and really getting clear meaning is so important down. Let me ask this question before we close the show. We got a little bit of time. We're over a little bit, but hey, we'll be all right. Purpose and meaning, would you say those are the same thing?
Oh, that's a good question. They are not at all.
Ooh, break that down. What was, because I agree with you, but what you said, you the doc today, you the doc.
So I believe happiness, maybe in your parlance, your table,
Yeah.
happiness is made up of meaning and purpose, but they're
Yes.
not the same thing. So let me lay it out. Meaning is how we cognitively think about our past.
Yeah.
It is the stories we tell ourselves about ourselves. Happy people tend to tell themselves heroic stories.
Okay.
I went through this trauma, I went through this hardship, but I was enough as a person, I got through it, and that's why I'm where I am today. It's a journey of enough. Unhappy people tell themselves a victim story.
Yeah.
I had this trauma when I was younger, I was thwarted, I'm still thwarted today. I've never had enough.
Wow. Wow.
Here's the difference. Purpose is not about the past and it's not about the thoughts. Purpose is about the present and future and it's about actions.
Okay. Okay. Yes, sir.
And here's where people go wrong. They don't have a great sense of meaning. They don't have a hero story. And so their answer is, I'm gonna purpose my way to enough. I'm gonna purpose my way to happiness. And how do they do that? They're like, well, if I just achieve this thing, if I just have this big goal, if I just become president, if I just do these things,
Oh my God.
I will feel enough.
Yes.
And here's why it doesn't work. Remember Steve Jobs?
Yep.
He looked particularly happy to you.
Come on, man.
How about Elon Musk? Did he look particularly happy to you?
Come on.
Now, these guys are some of the most successful, rich people that ever lived.
Yes, sir.
You can't purpose your way to enough. You can't achieve your way to feeling good about yourself. The way to do that is, unfortunately, you gotta go and have a better sense of meaning, which means dealing with the traumas and issues of your past. Once you get there and you feel you're enough, you stop feeling you have to prove yourself with purpose.
Yes.
And so you can just live your purpose. Do things that light you up. Don't worry. It's gonna get you in the record books. Doesn't matter. You already feel enough. Now you can joyfully go into purpose. That's why you need both.
You gotta have both.
Both.
You really do. Really do. And we're already over time, but I could break that down. But I love the way he just broke that down. I'm gonna leave it right there. Y'all can tell I'm a preacher because normally a preacher can come behind another speaker and preach on the same thing. But we're not gonna do that because he really breaks it down so good inside of his book, y'all. So we're gonna drop this inside of today's show notes. But before you leave, you guys, I do want to end today with, I believe, a powerful truth, right? That you were placed on this earth for such a time as this. My hope is that everyone and everything that Doc G and I discussed today resonates deeply with you and encourage you to live with purpose and intention. Why? Because your future depends on it. Your wealth depends on it. Your legacy depends on it. Your family is depending on it. You are depending on it. And so with that, I would like to leave you with today's scripture, and it comes from Ephesians chapter 2, verse 10. For we are God's handiwork, created in Christ Jesus to do good works, which God prepared in advance for us to do. Let this be a reminder that you are uniquely crafted for a purpose only you can fulfill. Not your spouse, not your kids. Goes back to what he was saying, right? He said, hey, listen, my purpose is not my kids. Only you can fulfill that. And the quote of the day comes from Robert II. The struggle you're in today is developing the strength you need for tomorrow. Listen, fam, do not give up. Make sure to pre-order a copy of Doc G's new book, The Purpose Code, How to Unlock Meaning, Maximize Happiness, and Leave a Lasting Legacy. Thank you, Doc, for joining us, man. It's been such a joy. Thank you all for joining us, and we'll see you on the next show. Peace out.